there, I'm Virginia Bray, Director of Marketing Fusion. We're a content marketing agency. We work with some global leaders in B2B tech marketing, helping people to get their messages out there through great content and campaigns. And today I'm here to talk to Chris Willman. Chris, would you be able to introduce yourself?
Thanks very much, Virginia. Great to be here. Good to have a conversation. I know we've spoken along the past. So I'm Chris Willman. I'm the EMEA Programs Director for CrowdStrike. For those in the technology cybersecurity world will know CrowdStrike as a global leader in cybersecurity. But ultimately, I think hopefully why you've brought me along for a natter today is to talk around all things marketing. My experience is a mix of large enterprise marketing for folks like CrowdStrike, as well as Kaspersky, RSA, but also working with small business organizations.
Chris, we've been chatting a little bit about account-based marketing, or ABM, and just kind of thinking about what's happening in the marketplace at the moment. And I just wanted to get your take on it, really, in terms of whether you see things have changed and to what effect that's sort of what sort of changes have been taking place and what impact that's having.
Yeah, absolutely. I think ABM is one of those things, you know as well as I do, it's kind of gone through a bit of an evolution. It's gone from just being a fluffy buzzword that we like to use, and we know as marketers we like to jump on the shiniest, kind of sexiest technologies, right, to actually being something that has to form the part of most organizations' marketing. But at its heart, great ABM means talking to the right people within the right organizations at the right time and about stuff that they care about.
And would you say, I mean, in terms of the sort of the evolution and the changes that we've been through, do you think some organisations have kind of coming to this for the first time, and others that have been sort of maybe through a couple of iterations and are now sort of finding a place that actually works for them?
I think it is pretty much evolving kind of almost day to day at the minute. I think there aren't many organisations right now that are doing probably the really kind of perfectly positioned one-to-one marketing. I think the terminology, things like one-to-one, one-to-few, one-to-many within account-based marketing are more understood, but I think there's still a real kind of misinterpretation of what the objectives are as part of that. I think the bit that often gets missed is the kind of the interlock between the sales and marketing teams and the functions there, and making sure everyone has really defined that relationship, the objectives of what you're trying to achieve, who owns what throughout the process, and making sure actually that there is a real clear kind of map of where the journey goes within your account-based marketing.
I've definitely seen that happening. I mean, there's a certain extent to which, you know, what we're seeing is that ABM, the principles behind it, that of kind of aligning sales and marketing, being very targeted and very selective in the organisations that you're targeting, is actually just seen as sort of good basic B2B marketing. Would you tend to agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, sales and marketing alignment, it forms the underpin of what great marketing is normally built upon. And the kind of handshake that we always talk about between sales and marketing functions, I think the principles of that are so intrinsically linked to what account-based marketing is, because if sales and marketing aren't really working in absolute harmony and synergy in how they're approaching these things, it doesn't work.
I mean, you know, would you say that, for example, people that were kind of worried or concerned about sort of, you know, taking on something like an account-based marketing strategy would now be able to sort of see, do you think things have changed or become more accessible in terms of both maybe the technologies to support it and the channels and the ability to communicate, obviously some of the intent tools that you can now get access to? Is that making it more widely available?
Yeah, I think we've got a ton more technology available to us now, which certainly makes the personalization, the targeting, the segmentation, all of the bits that make an ABM kind of program work, it's more affordable. But at the same time, I think the objective setting piece, the who are we going after, why are we going after them, and why are they going to care, that piece actually kind of defines the market. And it's almost not trying to build a program, no matter how great the technology is. Doesn't matter how many millions you might have to spend on technology and tools to support that stuff. If you're not able to be really selective and really clear on the size of audience and be realistic about that, you end up kind of diluting it, and you lose some of the intelligence and the power that you would get through delivering the program.
Absolutely. I mean, certainly I suppose for some of the smaller organisations that haven't necessarily dipped a toe in the water yet, it could mean that it's now a good time to sort of start looking into this. Yeah. And it may well be that what you've called, is it named account marketing? There's basically, okay, so I know who I want to go after, I've got a message for that audience, I can reach them, I can basically build a program. That's kind of almost like an entry-level kind of ABM, isn't it? Yep. So that's a little bit more accessible. Absolutely.
ABM really is about figuring out the potential customers for your business that represent the highest potential value.
Are there any kind of key learnings that you've kind of absorbed? I suppose we've kind of talked a few of those through in the last few minutes, but is there anything kind of, if you were starting out, for example, if you were a marketing person in maybe a high growth business, maybe looking to try and build out a strategy for the 6-12 months ahead, where would you start?
It really starts with, once you've defined the organisations you're going to talk to, it's about setting the objectives of what do you want to achieve and who owns what. If you don't define those objectives and those really clear kind of expectations, both from a marketing side and a sales side, you're never going to know if you're successful or not. ABM isn't just about creating a lead, passing it to sales and moving on. It's about doing that, but then still continuing the conversation, nurturing and influencing as you go along. And again, it might sound like that's the less kind of shiny part of it, but that's the stuff that for me, it's the boring, sit down with a spreadsheet, build your objectives, define your criteria, align ownerships, and then measure all that stuff. That's the bit that's going to make it successful. Building a great, a DM or a social or a web or a digital or whatever, or integrating all of those things is fantastic. But if it misses those bits at the core, it doesn't work.
And do you think that the way that we sort of measure success, so I've seen some sort of, shifts away from MQLs and SQLs as being kind of the measurement of success. Do you think that's something that's fundamentally shifting, or can it be measured in different ways?
I think from an ABM perspective, I think it has to be, because it isn't just about, serving something up and letting someone else kind of hit it down the park. It's about developing, nurturing and continually influencing throughout a conversation. So I think we do have to look at kind of touch upon or marketing touch throughout the journey, even when it's gone to sales, and how do you start to influence and how do you change the conversation? And someone even suggested to me yesterday, it's not about account-based marketing, it's about account-based everything. It's about how do the other functions bring in, maybe it's post-sales, maybe it's support, maybe it's finance, whatever it is that's relevant to that conversation. Those are other things that have got really relevant kind of touch points that I think can play a pretty big part in influencing the conversation long term as well.
Some messages that I've really taken away are getting the fundamentals right, building those structures where you've got all of the teams involved, and then looking at it as a long-term continuum. It's not just a once and done. Go forward from there.
Sounds good. And if anyone wants to connect, they feel free to reach out on LinkedIn.
Perfect.
Unfortunately, I'm not cool enough to be a TikTok user, but LinkedIn is always a good place to start.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much again for your time.
Pleasure.